welcome back. Unit 7-8, Solving Rational Equations. So here we go. Math career for today is a cryptanalyst. Well, what is a cryptanalyst? Well, cryptanalysts, they design, implement, and analyze algorithms for solving problems. They analyze and decipher secret coding systems and decode messages for military, political, or law enforcement agencies or organizations. On the flip side, they help provide privacy for people and corporations to keep hackers out of important data systems. They are constantly working on new ways to encrypt information. As you know, there's lots of digital information flying around the planet everywhere. This is an important job, and lots of companies and organizations and governments need this skill. Lots of math there, lots of good stuff to learn and study, and a nice healthy living for you as well, and probably some pretty exciting stuff along the way. A cryptanalyst. All right. Today we will simplify rational expressions, kind of a carryover from a previous lesson. So vocabulary today is rational equation, and something we're going to focus on today, extraneous solutions. So when you multiply each side of an equation by the LCD, or least common denominator, you may get what's called an extraneous solution. Now you've heard this word before, we've done this in class. Let's go ahead and refresh our memory here. An extraneous solution is a solution to a resulting equation that is not a solution to the original equation. Because of extraneous solutions, it is especially important to check your answers. Alright, so just sit back and watch this one here. Let's take a look. I've got 2 over x plus 1 equals x minus 6 over x squared minus 1, which you might recognize as equal twins, or difference of squares, yes? So let's just do what we know how to do. We are going to look for exclusions here, because I've got some variables in the denominator, so let's take a look. Let's start off, let's just do what we know how to do. We're going to go ahead and cross multiply, and then I'm going to distribute that 2 over on the other side. I'm going to get 2x squared minus 2, and I'm going to use the 2 by 2 box there, or the FOIL method if you'd rather, to get the trinomial on the right. Okay, now let's clean things up here. I've got variables flying around on both sides. I want to shove everything over to one side. And I'm going to subtract x squared from both sides. I'm going to add 5x and add 6 because I really want one of my sides here to equal 0. Now we get a nice straightforward easy x problem, don't we? X squared plus 5x plus 4. We can almost do that mentally. Factor the quadratic expression. We end up with the quantity x plus 1 times x plus 4 equals 0. Now what two values here would make this 0? Remember our zero product property. X plus 1 has to be 0, or x plus 4 has to be 0. So let's do that. Zero product property says that x is going to be negative 1 or negative 4. Put a negative 1 in the first factor, you get 0. For the product, put negative 4, you get 0. It's kind of a little bit of stuff we've been doing, okay, without the fractions there. Now we need to look for exclusions. So go back and look at our original problem. We had x plus 1 and x squared minus 1 there at the top. Let's see what happens here. If we take a look and we plug in that negative 1, that's one of our answers. We call our two answers are negative 1 and negative 4. You're going to see that negative 1, if you plug it in there for x, what would your denominator be? Either it's in one or both cases, the answer is going to be 0. That's not acceptable. So we call negative 1 an excluded value or an extraneous solution. So the only answer here is negative 4. So the only solution is negative 4. So though we had 2 to begin with, when we double checked where we started from, we tossed out negative 1 because it cannot be part of our solution. Okay, so the next one, let's work together. So let's work together on this one. So have your notebook, write this down. 3 over x minus 7 equals x minus 2 over x minus 7. Now where do we begin? Well, we begin by cross multiplying. We are going to watch for exclusions as we go forward. Okay, let's take a look here. So if we cross multiply, we end up with, looks like a 2 by 2 box, or the FOIL method on the left, distribution on the right. And maybe if you take a pause and look back where we started, can you already tell what the excluded value would be? If you can tell from the beginning, we'll look for that in our answer. Okay. So let's go ahead and distribute the 3 and multiply on the left. So you've got variables on both sides here. X squared minus 9x plus 14 equals 3x plus 3x minus 21. Let's shove everything over to the left-hand side. and set it equal to 0. So we're going to subtract 3x, but we're going to add 21. Remember, it's the inverse operations here. And we end up with x squared minus 12x plus 35 equals 0. All right then. So now here, we'll go ahead and jump into an easy x problem. So we're going to factor this, and we end up with x minus 7 times x minus 5 equals 0. What two values for x there would make that true? Well, the first one, something subtract 7 is 0. What's that answer? It's got to be 7. Something subtract 5 is 0. That has to be 5. So our two solutions are 7 or 5, depending on what we can choose here. Looking for exclusions, look back at your original problem. Is there a value we found that cannot work here? Well, if you do plug a 7 into the denominator, what do we see? Do you see any values that must be excluded from our answer we found? Looks to me like 7 is an extraneous solution. 7 minus 7 would be 0, so our only solution here is 5. Good. All right, last one, your turn. Okay, I'll kind of wait for you now. So go ahead and press pause, work this guy out, and I'll be right back here to check your answer in just a second. All right then, so here we're back. Did you cross multiply? It looks like we're going to have a binomial times a binomial. We're going to have a distributive property. We're going to be looking for exclusions. You can almost look right now and tell what numbers to watch out for later. But don't be confused by that. Just look at the end if you need to. Let's use those cross products. First step should have been this. We're multiplying the x plus 1 up here times the x minus 3, and we're multiplying the 4 by the x minus 2. Distribute and use a 2 by 2 box there to get a new equation. Now notice you've got variables on the left and a variable and a number on the right. Let's move these guys over. So the opposite of positive 4x is negative 4x. The opposite of subtracting 8 is adding 8. So we'll subtract 4x from both sides. We'll add 8 to both sides, setting it equal to 0. Looks like a nice easy x problem. I need two numbers that multiply to 5 but add to negative 6. How about x minus 1 times the quantity x minus 5 equals 0? So what two values there would make that true? How about 1 and 5? 1 or 5 there would work. Check for exclusions. Looks like our two answers are 1 and 5. If I plug a 1 in there, I don't get a 0. If I plug a 5 in there, I don't get a 0. I don't care about the numerator. Numerator's not important, just the denominator here. So it looks to me like there are no restrictions because our answers were 2 and 3. That's what our restrictions were, I should say. So there are no extraneous solutions. So our solution set is 1, 5. All right. Solve. Oh, I got another one for you. Identify any extraneous solutions. Okay. So let's see what you can do here. I guess we're going to go through one more. So go ahead and press pause and give us a try here. All right then, how about this? Looking for exclusions here. If we cross multiply, we end up with 9 times x squared equals 6 times x squared plus 2x there. Distribute, multiply, we end up with that. I'm sure you can see where that came from. Let's clean everything up, shoving it all over to one side and set it equal to 0. And here we are with factoring. Then we're going to factor out a common denominator here. I'm going to go ahead and factor out a 3x, and we end up with 3x times the quantity x minus 4 equals 0. So what two values for x would make that 0? Looks to me like inside the parentheses it would be a 4. That would be 1. And then how about on the outside? How about a 0 out there? So the zero product property would give us 0 or 4. Good. Now, looking for exclusions, if we plug a 4 into the denominator, what would happen? Our two answers are 0 and 4. Would either of those suggested solutions set either denominator to 0? Well, I think if you plug a 4 in there, we're good to go. We get a bunch of positive numbers. But what if we plug a 0 in that denominator? 0 squared is 0, 2 times 0 is 0, 0 plus 0 is 0. We have problems all over the place. So it looks like 0 is an extraneous solution So the only answer here is 4. All right then, some practice there at the bottom. Just navigate over to the website and you can see another lesson on this if you'd like. And you've got some digital scored practice there for your fun math time. All right then, we'll talk to you soon.